Sahar, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for inviting me.
Right from the beginning of Extraordinary Love Stories, I wanted to film with you.
Wow,
So it's
I'm
a big day for
flattered,
me.
really. That's wonderful. I honestly was so honored that you say that.
Oh, no, I mean it. So tell me, who is Sahar Hashemi?
Oh gosh, Sahar Hashemi. Well, I think the problem is every time people think of me, they think of the first business I started, Coffee Republic. And however proud I am of that, can't seem to shake off that founder of Coffee Republic. And you almost feel like as the years pass, it's something I did so many years ago. It's actually quite scary if I actually think about how many years ago it was. And even being here in Holborn, it sort of reminds me of a lot of the sort of startup times. But I hope now to be known for By Women Built, what I've just started, and maybe slightly change the script around myself.
I love that. And Coffee Republic is a journey into being an entrepreneur. It's been able to shape key parts of what you do now. But tell me, what is By Women Built?
So Buy One Build is something I started during COVID. So it basically is a movement to encourage and shine a light on female entrepreneurship in the UK. Because what people don't realize is that in the UK, we don't have enough female entrepreneurs. And when you say we have 30% less female entrepreneurs than other developed countries like us, like America, Canada, the Netherlands, 30% less. And that 30% less cost the UK economy 200 billion.
Do we know why?
Why
Do we
it
know
is.
why there are
Um,
30% less?
Many reasons, but a lot of it is confidence. So I was involved in the Rose Review of Entrepreneurship that came out, and a lot of it is women think they haven't got the right skills to be an entrepreneur, so they don't even try. And as we know, entrepreneurship is all about just taking that leap and just going in. And a lot of women don't because they think actually it's not me, I haven't got the right skills. It's for different kind of people. There's a sort of set entrepreneurial type.
Where does that come from? Because that really interests me. As you know, I'm a father to two teenage daughters. So I want them to be able to have that confidence to follow their passion, follow their dreams. So that lack of confidence, that lack of self-belief, which is something I absolutely have unearthed in other conversations, and it's a sort of a passion of mine, is to try and understand why that is. Is that any sort of kind of archaic, chauvinistic, male-dominated side of things, or is it actually that there just haven't been enough role models for girls to aspire to be female entrepreneurs?
Yeah, John, I mean, it's really simple. It's that old adage, you can't be what you can't see. And it would just, when you looked around, I think there was a stat that I picked up because I did all this Google research, and 80% of 11 to 18-year-olds can't name a single female entrepreneur. So if you're not seeing women do stuff, and you've heard that 2p out of every pound goes to great, right? It's a stat that is important and a stat that needs changing. But imagine if a young girl starting like one of your daughters and thinking, and that stat's in your head, oh, women can't raise finance, there's a female investment gap. Well, you're not going to start, are you? Because that's all you
It's
hear.
not inspiring.
It's just not inspiring. So, sometimes in trying to solve some of the problems we've had, we've so focused on the problems that then we affect that confidence angle that plays such a big role in not having enough. So my rationale, and I remember what came to me was so I was involved in the Rose Review, so I knew about that 30% stat, the 200 billion stat, and I had written after Coffee Republic the book Anyone Can Do It, and I called it Anyone Can Do It because I was brought up in this view that entrepreneurs are special people and they're different. And coming to the studio in High Holborn, my very first job as a lawyer was just off High Holborn. So I was looking at all my lunch
Very
spots.
nostalgic for you then.
Very nostalgic, in Lincoln's Inn Fields, right behind where we are. And I just remember at that time, Sahar the lawyer, Sahar the solicitor, the world of the entrepreneur was so far away from me. I mean, that was for quirky people. It wasn't for me. I went to university. I didn't have that sort of brain. The word creative and me were just not associated. So the Sahar that for 5 years was walking along, buying her lunch along these streets of High Holborn, just had no idea that I had an entrepreneur within me, that one day I'll be called an entrepreneur. I believe anyone can do it. Entrepreneurship isn't a set of skills you have. You don't have to start as an entrepreneur. You become an entrepreneur when you take an idea in your head and you turn it into business. And it's a methodology that everyone can follow. It's a sort of method to an entrepreneurship. There's some steps you take. And at the end, you're sort of can look back and be, oh, I suppose I can call myself an entrepreneur. So with those two in the background, me thinking it's not a special skill, it's not a chromosome. Um, I'm sitting during COVID. And sometimes they say how, if life quietens down, it leaves space. I'm sure you're into all that. If, in the empty space comes new ideas. And I remember everyone during lockdown was like, "Oh, you're going to write a best-selling book? What are you going to do?" And I'm doing nothing. And suddenly, I was doing a lot of like I'm on the speaker circuit about entrepreneurial culture in big companies, which was sort of my day job in a way. And speaking to big companies, I've written books on what that culture of agile entrepreneurship is. So that speaking completely come to a halt in COVID. So for once, I'm actually not busy. So my mind's a bit empty. And literally, I remember November 2020, I'm sitting in my sitting room and I'd actually ended up having a foot operation that I kept delaying, minor kind of bone foot operation. And I thought, fine, what better time that if we're in lockdown for me to get this bloody foot operation? So I'm putting my foot in front of me and going through Twitter, and this tweet comes up. And literally, I just remember the moment I saw that tweet, and the tweet was to the effect that, not all of us can mentor women, not all of us can invest in women, but we can all buy from them. And I don't know if there was like a chorus of angels up there or something, but I still remember that moment.
Light bulb moment.
Literally, when people talk about light, I used to sort of be like light bulb moments, but there is literally, I just remember like it was almost like time stopped and everything stopped. Every noise stopped. And I remember thinking, this is really big. And I just felt this sort of energy like around this. I was thinking, buying, surely, we talk about investments, but actually a really healthy business is a business that grows from customer revenue. We always forget that. It's always like we Series B, Series B. But what about your customers? Are you actually growing your business? Are you selling your product? Are we forgetting about that? Um, and I just remember that time when I contacted Jacqueline de Roccas, who was at that time head of Take UK, who wrote the tweet. Um, and I kind of said to her, that was really strong, that tweet. That means a lot. That's really powerful. And really just through that, many lockdowns we had, that idea just was just there. And I kept just being so excited because um because and you and I were talking about, Great British Entrepreneur Awards, and I've been on all these judging panels. So I thought
It's placed you really well. Must stress that it wasn't just that you say you weren't doing anything. You're part of it, you're an OBE. There's so many things that connect you in politically and into the entrepreneur hub, if you like.
yes, well, what we call our ecosystem that I'm
Yes,
lucky to
I
be
love that.
part of, because we do have this amazing ecosystem of all of us, and sort of so I was lucky to sort of sit on that ecosystem. And so literally I remember thinking, well, it's amazing because I know quite a lot of female entrepreneurs, but I bet people don't really know them. I bet people just don't really know that this brand that they are buying is founded by a woman. I kind of knew, I picked up by Little Moons, Mochis. I knew that Vivian had started it, but I kind of thought the average person doesn't know. And we're missing a trick here because, again, you can't be what you can't see. If you don't know who started them. And I thought, imagine telling people, actually, just look at all these brands around you. Did you know these are built by women? Did you know there's a woman entrepreneur who's had the idea, who's gone with it, who has gone through all the obstacles we read about, but she's made it happen? Why are we not talking about them? We're missing a trick if we're not talking about them. Um, and it was
It's
just,
championing female entrepreneurship. It's an absolute
yeah,
great excuse to do so.
and genuinely championing. And I kind of thought the best way was through products, because we sort of talk about female leadership, and and I'm sure you have been, and I've been for sure to many events where you bring together loads of just women, who are leaders, but it's so vague that there's not that much commonality between someone that runs a big company and someone that's starting a business. But I actually thought, and I've always loved consumer brands. I'm the world's biggest consumer. I mean, women kind of help with sort of control 80% of purchasing decisions, none bigger than me, like the world's biggest shopper, love brands, love everything. I could get lost every country I go to, I get lost for about 2 hours in the supermarket. Um, and I remember thinking, God, imagine doing that around brands. And at the same time, very much effective social media around me. I don't have children of my own, but my goddaughters, my nieces, my friends' daughters, seeing what social media was doing to them, and that's not even half of what it's doing to them now. So I mean, like even those kind of 4 or 5 years is what a difference it's made. Seeing what there is about self-esteem, and there was something that really woke me up as well. That was the background was, um, I remember one of the Kardashian girl, the sister, the Jenner, she had a lipstick brand, and her lipstick brand, for some reason, sort of she became a billionaire, and so she was the first woman on the cover of Forbes as the first female billionaire. And I remember looking at her, and there was a lot of press around. She has just made it to the cover of Forbes, and I remember thinking, actually, she's not really an entrepreneur, is she? Because she started as a reality TV star. These guys are reality TV stars. They're influencers. Um, she hasn't built that business from one lipstick. She just a big beauty company has licensed, driving her
Yeah, a
out
team of
and
people that have formed around a brand.
around the
Her.
brand. And very much I remember thinking, if I had seen her on the cover of Forbes, I would have never ever taken that leap into entrepreneurship myself. Because that would have set the bar for me somewhere that, well, if she does it, I'm nowhere like her. I have, 100 million less followers than her. I'm not a worldwide
You
name.
can't associate,
Like
can't
there's
identify.
nothing, and not only can you not associate, it does the actual opposite of inspiring you. You're like, actually, let me just go off because entrepreneurship is not for me. And I remember that was quite, so all these things are in the back of your head, and that really struck with me when I saw her on the cover of Forbes. I thought, ooh, how completely, whatever the word of the opposite of inspiring is,
Yeah,
that is what that is.
negged out.
Yeah, negged out. I like that word. And so this is all in the back of my mind really. And while then the idea comes, right? They say it's just like everything comes together in this idea. And then I remember actually thinking, I've got to start somewhere. And I sort of opened up an Excel workbook on my Mac, and I started writing a list of every entrepreneur I knew. I kind of thought there were so many.
I bet there was your network must be phenomenal, your
Well,
black
well,
book.
well, 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 you used to kind of say that, but I kind of thought female entrepreneurs of consumer products, and I came up with 36, and I was like, okay, 36, like I didn't know that many more. So even I, in that entrepreneurial ecosystem, didn't know more than 36 consumer brands that were founded by women. Um, so I thought, oh, that's interesting. But, somehow I just continued, and I continued for the first, year. I had all these, like, Zoom calls about it. Everyone's saying, "This is a really interesting idea. Love that," "Are there enough female entrepreneurs out there? Maybe there aren't that many." And you always have these doubts when you're, in that gestation period of an idea. Of course, you're up and down the whole time. People always think people are really gung ho, but they have no idea what goes on in that gestation period where the idea is just here and one person, can just absolutely smash it and just tell you it's nothing, and then you're sort of like a road ruin, like they're picking up the pieces. And one day someone could be excited, and then you're on cloud nine. So it's that yo-yo that everyone who's ever started with an idea would know what that's like. Um, and then I just sort of slowly, thinking great idea, and then but nothing was happening. So I remember like after a whole I started that, I got the idea, the light bulb in November, the whole of 2021 while we were in lockdown, I was having Zoom calls discussing the idea, like, this. Um, and then I remember that Christmas thinking, oh, you know what, like every great idea, it was just an idea. I'll never be able to take this off the ground because ideas are just, you know what I mean? This can be another graveyard of brilliant ideas. Because how do you just start a movement? And then people were telling me you got to raise millions to start a movement. How the hell do you start a movement to get young people to buy from women-built brands? Like, how do you do that? And at that time, actually, I had called someone called Barney McCauley, who I'd met, who was like a marketing guru, and he very much like you had a daughter, and we talked before about social media and the kind of role models for girls. So I called him and said, listen, talk about a marketing movement. Will you come and join forces with me and let's start this together? Because I knew I needed to have a marketing head. So very important to realize that the beginning of Buy One Build wasn't just women for women. I literally, my 50-50 co-founder at the time to get it off the ground was a man who really believed in this. And he really had the marketing brain, but he also was, we need to raise money. You can't, you need to raise proper money. And it's sort of not sort of something I wanted to do. Like I just didn't know how to even do it. And so I went back to my old playbook, and my old playbook is all about starting small, the power of tiny steps, and sort of what I call bootstrapping in entrepreneurship. And so I kind of thought, actually, do you know what? I always talk about bootstrapping, I always talk about big things start when you make these teeny, teeny steps. And I thought, and I spoke to like a couple of friends who were like, just start a WhatsApp group. I'm on a WhatsApp group. It's easy, and people back then didn't have that many WhatsApp groups, funny enough. I remember thinking, yeah, just start a WhatsApp. I'm just going to stop. Just sort of. And I remember I happened to be on a panel, and it was just before Christmas, with three other entrepreneurs that I didn't know. Um, and there were three female entrepreneurs of consumer brands. I remember I went to Lou and thought, I'm going to do it. This is it. And I literally went out and I went, hey, ladies, I'm just about to start this WhatsApp group of bringing together all the female founders of consumer brands. Will you be on it? And I really had to kind of like, it was so scary that moment. I was just so exposed and just, and people, when you have an idea, you really feel so small with your idea and so vulnerable. I remember they were like, yeah, do it. And so thank God I took screenshots. I remember that next morning I kind of started a WhatsApp group. I called Bonnie. I was like, going to call it something. And I invited them. And it was literally like three people on a WhatsApp group saying, I'm starting a movement around female entrepreneurship. Um, but then that three very much another one and then another one. And it was quite embarrassing when you're still very small numbers, number five joins, number six, seven. And then when we got to about 12 people on the WhatsApp group, I thought, let me get them together. Like, let's all have coffee together. And Anya Haimosh very kindly hosted. She just opened her cafe, the Anya Cafe. And she was like, I'll host it. Like, come and get these women there. And as soon as they came in, I just couldn't realize that they had never met each other. Because when I was starting, in a way, there were sort of quite a few of us, and we had met for some reason. But these guys, again, maybe because of like all the sort of socials and emails, there aren't that many in real life events for them to have met. And they'd never met. And I was like, how come you guys don't know each other? And they just got on and just couldn't stop talking, and they couldn't stop connecting. They couldn't stop sharing. I just couldn't believe it. I remember just looking from the outside thinking, this is phenomenal.
So you knew then you
I
were
knew
onto
that.
something. So all that apprehension, that nervousness from someone who's so accomplished as
Yeah,
well.
God, I felt this small.
You went,
Like,
you flipped. I hope you flipped it right around to then like, right,
yeah.
I'm onto something here.
I thought this is really phenomenal. And I was like, listen, like, and they wanted to also post it. And I was like, don't post because I haven't really started anything.
Yeah,
So like,
hold on.
please don't like say anything. But they just couldn't stop. And then I was like, they were like, oh God, something mystery is happening. But like we had no name, we had no
You're not branded
Instagram
at this
account,
point.
nothing,
Just the concept.
just a concept in a way. And then, funny enough, slowly the branding. I think I even did make a cube of Buy One Built and sort of brought it there on this kind of small table. I have the pictures of it. And then slowly, literally, from that coffee morning, the thing about women, which is why they're phenomenal, is this idea that networking is a man's game. Like you remember that thing we hear about? It's just rubbish that networking happens in golf clubs and women are not part of it. I mean, women are masters of networking. They can't stop talking. They can't stop connecting. I mean, men are dreadful in networking. My husband goes off to golf, like with a friend of ours who has been a life-changing moment. I'm like, what did he say? And he said, oh, we didn't discuss it. And I'm like, you were together for 8 hours. How could you not? And whereas a woman, leave them together for 2 minutes. Everything is shared, every experience, every up and down. And so they started telling. And so it was very much like, Sahar, you must get this and this on this WhatsApp group. So this WhatsApp group literally grew one, to 30.
Which grows your network as well, right? At this point, from 37
Yeah,
to then your
absolutely. Which
other
I
people
had no
bringing
idea,
in.
because even my reaction was, God, I had no idea about that brand was Wimbledon. Oh God, is that brand Wimbledon? I had no idea. And so I sort of brought them together, sort of very, very, literally, one after the other, me very much just working from home, getting a few
Must have been
interns
so
of like,
enjoyable, actually. I bet you
yeah,
thrived on that.
yeah, loved it. Once it got going, it was amazing. And just seeing them come together and it was just really little coffee mornings. That we had another coffee morning, and then the group got bigger, and then we couldn't fit into the Andy Cafe anymore. And then the kind of WhatsApp group
You
got to
definitely couldn't fit into it
100.
now. It's
Yeah,
global, right?
absolutely. I mean, the funny, it's just UK, but yeah. I mean, we've had over 3,000 submissions now and that is only consumer brands started by women in the UK.
I was
Um,
just thinking that there's probably quite a few women entrepreneurs watching this, listening to this, thinking, gosh, I wish there was something for outside of the consumer brands. It's probably
Yes,
something to think about.
I know, for services. Yes, the only issue that we have at the moment we're thinking is, because so anyway, so we went from that, and then so now, because at the beginning it was very much the bigger brands I knew, so that was like became, literally we went to the bigger brands, like the founder of Ashton and Mew, the founder of Rixo, the founder of Weiss, the founder of Sarah Chapman, the founder of Nails Inc. That was easy, the big brands we knew. But then what I realized was there were like all these other consumer brands that were just up and coming or sort of just scaling. And where do we put them? And I didn't want the WhatsApp group to get that big because then, as I'm sure you've kind of seen, there's enormous WhatsApp groups with those sort of messages. And then we sort of created this sort of community home, whereby like a platform and an app where they can kind of ask each other questions. And so now we've got, yeah, so over the sort of 3,000 submissions, we've got the kite mark. I mean, it's just grown and it's just, I
It's
mean, yes,
so mission led. I love the fact you
yeah,
took the time to articulate it and you put the vulnerability into there where you were stewing on it. There's a lot of people that potentially, again, aspirational entrepreneurs, and they're not sure of their idea. They're not sure whether to back themselves. And you had a track record. Right
absolutely.
at
And I
the
was as vulnerable as a, because, you're only as good as your idea. So, I mean, life is so easy not to do anything and just go back on. You know what I mean? I always started Corporica or I wrote it by saying, but it's that beauty of when you put yourself out there, it is so scary and it's almost like you're sort of stinking, like no one wants to get close to you because,
You also feel alive at that point, though, don't you?
and then you feel alive. And then because you then realize that you've pushed yourself.
Momentum, isn't it? You're backing yourself now.
Yeah,
And of course, your idea has flown. I think it's important to make the point, and I think we probably both got stories where there is an idea that you've put forward that hasn't come off, but by having that momentum and move forward, you're learning real time. And actually,
absolutely.
you're not necessarily going to fail because it could move into something else or become
Absolutely.
something else.
That's right. You learn something else.
Yeah.
And I think, I mean, what I'm enjoying about Buy One Builds, maybe because I don't feel any pressure of getting I've got no destination. Do you know what I mean? I've got no, and people sort of, I don't know, I've never done that before. And I'm kind of quite openly telling people, like, what's the end game? What's your plan? I have no plans.
But the great thing for you is this business is people based.
Yeah.
So from 37 to 47 to 107 to 3007, you meet new people all the time. That ecosystem is cultivated, it's growing all the time. So it's not like you're trying to aspire to be 10,000 and that's the destination, because it could be 12,000, could be 15,000. And also you're creating something that quite simply wasn't there before,
Yeah.
which is going back to that 2% of VC funding and all these. You're stimulating what is clearly a nice sort of incubator pot, if you like, for female entrepreneurship to flourish, which is
Yeah.
a
To
massive
flourish
thank you for
too.
me, because that's my legacy. That's my daughters, right?
Yes, that's, I mean, and that, these women, what is extraordinary about them is that, uh, we actually did a video before the conference we had, was they couldn't, I mean, they are the ultimate role models for each woman, each girl there is out there, for them to see that this could be you, because they couldn't be more different. And I'm also trying to create these like diverse environment. Female entrepreneurs could not come in every shape and size, every age, different backgrounds, different reasons why they started. And for me, just to see each of these women, but they had one thing in common. They had that idea and they didn't sit there thinking about it, asking people. They took the leap. You know what I mean? And every single that they share that leap. And in that journey of the leap, we know that there were no shortcuts. They just grit. It's just kind of, they shared grit. And when you bring together women who've had the same journey of, that vulnerability is exactly as you were saying, one idea that no one else has thought about. It's just in your head. And they brought it to life and they've gone out there and they've sold it to consumers and they turned it into products. And 98% of them have started from a personal need. And funny enough, we have this time where when we download on the website, I like to read every single story of each female founder, why they started. And it's just extraordinary. Each one, and literally 98%, we've got the data, started from a personal need, something they were missing or their family was missing. Or it could be that they came from Sri Lanka and there was a certain culture around food that they then couldn't find here. Whatever it
Solving
was,
a problem or something's
solving a
missing,
problem for
like you
themselves
did,
or their loved
literally like
ones.
you have.
Yeah, and so that is the essence of product innovation, right? Because they're starting as customers themselves. So they didn't start because they were trying to, they wanted to start a business. They started from the point of the product. So that is like the DNA of true entrepreneurship. And these women are so incredible. They're so different that every single girl in the world could see themselves in one of these women. They're going to find themselves in one of these women. And I just wanted, I can't tell you what they're like. We were in Birmingham. We're now doing a tour of the country because now we're big enough to be able to tour a country. So on our tour, we went Manchester, and yesterday's tour was Birmingham. So we got everyone from the Midlands to come together. Because, for example, like all these brands building in the Midlands with a lot of their factories in the Midlands didn't know each other. I mean, could you imagine? And
I find it
yeah,
crazy, but the reality is you found that out by
yeah,
putting them together.
yeah. By putting them together. And then kind of, for example, I don't know if anyone has barbecues here, but like there's this brand called the Sauce Shop. I don't know if you've seen it. It has this amazing burger sauce and stuff. It
I know
looks
what
like,
you mean. Yeah,
do you know what I mean? It
yeah.
looks like it's that sort of stenciled. And suddenly, like she turns up, Pam, and I'm like, the Sauce Shop is female founded. Like this is me, and I'm pretty good at due diligence. I'm a solicitor. You know what I mean? I should be good at this. 4.5 years on, still brands come up, and I'm like, I had no idea you were a female founder. So this is almost how I feel about it, is like women going, I'm female founded, my brand's female founded. And, it's not that, this is not sort of some sort of a, oh God, it because we feel sorry for them or it's against men. It's just that we have all these brands that are female founded. People just didn't know they were female founded. And for a while, we need to shout about them, shine a light on them, so all these girls coming up can realize what women are capable of.
Totally. It's community. We had that brief chat before we were filming, and that word community, and the fact that the importance of what you are doing is that those girls, women that are looking into space, not thinking it's for them, you created this whole environment where they're like, "Oh, that's me." And I guess there's an element of potential mentoring there as well. So you obviously were in a position, and yourself included, to be a sort of been there, done that, established, and people can learn from you, and you are a role model. But there are people coming through that haven't got that, that have the idea,
Yes,
have the
yes.
story, and you can embrace them and bring them in. And do you feel that? Do you feel there's almost like the established and then the up and coming mixing together now? Because that's how you learn.
Yes, but I mean, the only thing I would say about that actually is I believe that everyone with an idea is you can get mentored to death, with an idea, but you just got to take the leap and learn yourself. So I'm a bit like we don't allow anyone in, and when I say allow anyone in, because it's a community whereby it's peer to peer, right? So once they come in, especially once they're in the community app, um, they're interacting with each other. What you don't want is someone who hasn't taken the leap, because I believe ideas come to you. It's up to you. There's enough resources out there for you to just take the leap and go with it. And we believe in starting small and starting somewhere. And for example, I was talking to Vinita Party of Blink Brow Bar. I think she's got like 36 or maybe even 50 worldwide brow bars. She started by putting one chair in the middle of Phoenix, and they put her in the lingerie department of Phoenix, one chair with someone doing someone's eyebrow. These founders have started small. She didn't start with a chain of brow bars. She started with one. It's this Stripe and Stare, the kind of revolutionary sort of underwear brand. Her mum kind of sewed the first pair of knickers that they were selling. You know, it's sort of so Buy One Built is very much for women who've just started taking the leap and started selling already, because then they have the commonality.
I
And I hope,
totally get
yeah,
that. Yeah, if you're still thinking and you're still churning, and you've got to actually take the leap. You've got to be facing forwards and moving with
yeah, and
momentum,
the
and then you
resources are there, and get inspiration from these women. Let them power you. Read their stories when you're feeling low, but there's enough for everyone to take the leap and just do it. And then it's that peer-to-peer support, because there's something about that this new generation that is like, oh, I've got an idea. Can I be mentored? Actually, get yourself a book, read the book. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
Learn.
without you potentially trying to go the route of the word woke and so on. There is an element of there's a lot of self help uh, sort of books and podcasts and kind of information out there that people feel like it's all being done for them,
Yeah.
but no one can do it
Yeah.
except you, and then you can
Absolutely, when
take
you
the help,
take the
right?
leap. So I mean, I have to say I'm kind of with this. Someone said, "I've got an idea. Will you meet my thing?" I was like, "No, let them do it. Once they've done it, it'll be like, oh, is that packaging right?
That's
Do you think I
important
should
to
do
hear that.
that?" Yeah,
Yeah,
because I'm just like, actually, it's everyone's own responsibility to take the leap. We live in a amazing country that has so much support. We have access to so much resources. Take the leap, and then later on, the questions our founders ask is, how do you get into Ocado? Can you help me with what should I say to the buyer? Is that the correct way? That's the sort of questions you want. People who in the arena. And it's just sort of, you've got to be in the arena.
Yeah. And I think that brings me nicely to the kind of role model side of things. You talk with so much passion and conviction, and you're very, very quick to know where and when you sort of sit where you can help someone, but at the same time, you've got to help yourself.
Yeah.
But do you see yourself as a role model?
Do you know what? Not really. I sort of almost see these sort of 3,000 women as role models. I'm kind of
I feel that.
almost,
I feel that. I feel you push that away, and I'm trying to bring it back to you. Not in a you're clearly very humble and self-deprecating. You also know your strength, right? But I think that's a key part of why I wanted to film with you so much. Right from the beginning, almost like drawing up a list of people I wanted to speak to and know what my pillars are, if you like, of sort of interest. And that's how I see you. It's like actually, what you've done to get to what you're doing and then what you're affecting change with is so powerful, so influential.
wow, thank you. That's like kind of
Oh,
lovely.
it's heartfelt. It's heartfelt, and I'm very conscious of sort of almost like from this conversation on, how can I help you outside of this conversation? There's a movement that you built through a vision that's now clearly very much sort of running full tilt. And it's like any way I can help you in any way, and hopefully anyone watching or listening.
And then I'm actually, John, I mean, something else, which is, I think is happening, and I'm seeing this pattern, and we're about to do a campaign with one of our brands around this idea of, and perhaps relevant for your daughters. And I think when I was brought up slightly, like let's say the 90s, working around during a corporate setting, it was sort of, that kind of corporate culture was quite male. I remember like I started, wearing kind of shoulder pads. You and I were talking about it. You'd have to wear a suit as a woman. You know what I mean? It was the shoulder pads. It was strong. Women have to be tough and quite hard to be a businesswoman. And what I'm seeing, and I have always been a bit quite like that, is sort of really once I embraced entrepreneurship, I realized it's just using Sahar. And entrepreneurship is because when I was a lawyer, and actually was probably quite a lawyer, I wasn't really able, it just didn't come naturally to me in a way. But when I went to entrepreneurship, I realized I'm just using my human qualities here, just like maxed out. You know what I mean? Like 100% constantly, like the Sahar sort of personality motor was running on every aspect. Um, and then I sort of almost thought, well, so that's sort of quite me. That's my way of doing it. And even for me, as someone at my age, the realization I've had with Buy One Build is they're all like that. So those feminine qualities that we had to be a bit apologetic about before, that is like, if you want to go to business, you've got to be a bit different. This is how people do it. This is how you present. You got to present differently. I'm seeing this women not being like that. I'm seeing them be, for example, something that we always get accused of is you're too emotional. Like I remember when Coffee became public, and I'd be in board meetings and I'd get upset about like the recent coffee flavor we have or the iced coffee made. And it was almost like this is a board meeting, like, we don't discuss this sort of thing because this is about business and we're a public company. I was like, but it's the coffee. It's because that actually, and when I think about it now, that was the essence of what we do. If that's not right, there's nothing right. And so I'm seeing through these women, it's extraordinary, is that idea of soft is strong. So feminine qualities that we used to associate as weaknesses are actually our strengths. Our vulnerability is actually our strength. If you are deeply emotional about your product and your customers, that's actually wonderful because that's what large companies are looking for. So own your qualities, your feminine qualities. Be 100% yourself. You don't need to become someone else and have another persona to do well. And I'm seeing, because I have proof one after the other, and the ones active in our community, I think are 2,350. Like, and because I've there sort of come on board and, they come to our events, I see that in every single person. They are wholeheartedly themselves with whatever qualities they bring in. And I think that is the ultimate role model that we need for girls, is that actually you don't need to compare yourself to someone else, because what you are born with, your qualities, your weaknesses, your strengths all add up to what you need to find your path in life.
100%. And you said earlier that you can't kind of be what you can't see. Well, you've literally elevated that, and the storytelling element to it, the community element, because that's almost like today's version of the fireside chat, but you're doing it with
Yeah,
3,000 people. That will
absolutely.
ripple out. That goes to the daughters, the colleagues, the friends. That's That's powerful. That's
Yeah,
that
I
you use
hope
that
so.
term ecos. Yeah, well, it's happening
Well,
because
it's lovely to hear
the
that because
evidence is.
sometimes
But
you're in
well,
there and you're like, "Oh my
I'm
God."
repeating what you've said and sort of what you've done, but that's what wasn't there before. That's now clearly, which was a missing piece. All these women now can actually genuinely see it's happening.
Yeah, and can before this sort of idea of women as shopaholics, and I bet for your daughters it's the age where they started loving shopping, right? And before that was like, oh, it's a flaky shopaholics. Ugh, I wish like they were sort of into science. Or my actually shopaholics, brilliant, because that means you're out there, that you are going to have the eye on what the market needs, what's missing. You know, that is
Spot the
your
opportunity.
strength
Yeah.
because you have got a pulse of the market.
So you're now telling me that I can go home to my daughters and say you're all right to shop because Sahar
Spend your
told me
time
told me that
online,
this
girls,
is a
because
bad
that's
influence.
like
No.
it's your creativity feeding as
Yeah,
to what the market's needing. You know what I mean?
I do.
And it's just like it's okay because those are just for girls. I'm sure as they wake up, boys get interested in I don't know sport or sex. Girls get interested in shopping, right? It's like they're high, but that's okay. That's brilliant because that could then give you the genesis of some idea.
You mentioned science. It's not out of a classroom. It's not out of a textbook,
Yeah,
which is probably really, really inspiring and refreshing for parents, let alone kids to hear.
exactly that. It's not conventional. And just let every girl be, fully own. I think
Yeah,
who you are
yeah.
is something I've learned. And I kind of haven't got daughters of my own, and I just hope I will sort of say that. And I lost my mum, so I sort of always miss that kind of slightly maternal, that feminine influence. I was so lucky to have such an incredible mother. Her influence on me was tremendous. In terms of sort of, and it's just me and my brother, and she really let me own my own qualities like that. And I just hope maybe, sometimes I feel if you leave the world without children, there's some legacy. So I hope that's a
Oh,
legacy.
you 100% have a legacy, and I think I want to humanize you a little bit because by women built and everything you're doing, and that is almost like a huge part of your identity now, which will continue to grow and be your legacy. But there's a lot around being a successful entrepreneur that where you've got to be up at 4 in the morning, run a marathon, meditate, read a book. Where did you sit with that? How does Sahar kind of almost sort of look after her mental and physical fitness?
It's sort of suddenly I've got a team again, a bike women built for me. Suddenly we were sort of, have an office, and so suddenly my responsibility is just at the time where I'm thinking, but I am, I mean, I can see you're obviously quite a health hacker, but I am,
I
I,
try
I,
to.
I came in having a Danish pastry, so I probably have
I
not as
caught you. I saw you. But I had a
credibility
heel.
with you.
We matched each other there, surely.
God, but no, I'm sort of quite strict about sort of certain things. So now when I wake up, I'm really I love a sort of cold shower. That I really believe the day starts
Is
with
that
kind of
early?
yeah, that's kind of I mean I have a sort of normal shower that has to finish with a very very cold shower, and that's the only way I sort of wake up. And I try actually very much the sort of Simon Sinek approach of not looking at my phone first thing as I wake up when I have that shower. And then I have a little dog, Stewie, and I take Stewie for a walk. And that's like a real important sort of zone for me that nothing starts with that. Cold shower, one espresso, go out, take Stewie, and then
Sets your day up.
sets the day up. Yeah. And then it starts and it's just, yeah, there's nothing between that. It's just, especially now with Buy One
No,
Book,
but you've
that's
got a
so
routine that works
exciting.
for you.
And
That's why I think it's good for people that will be learning from you, listening and watching, and see you as a successful entrepreneur. You're sort of learning what people do. And I think I'm conscious of time, and I think that the sort of final question I want to ask you, I just use that word success. Sitting here now, how do you define success?
gosh, you know what? The only way I define it is being fulfilled, and fulfilled means challenged and learning, because I've seen success whereby I was I must have been 29, 30 when we went public, and I sold my shares and left. So is that success? But I felt that moment I sold was the darkest moment of my life, probably, where I felt like I had nothing to do. I had no purpose suddenly. I missed what I was it was like someone has shut off my creative flow.
And yet your bank account was probably full at that point.
Absolutely,
Isn't
and
that
I just
interesting?
remember kind of thinking, "I've got nothing to do," and I remember seeing and I kind of thinking went for my first ladies' lunch, and I was about to slit my wrists after it. I
Like,
thought,
is this
"Is
my
this my
life?
life? Literally, is this my life?" And I'm then gonna go to yoga class afterwards. And, And it's just really because I have been there, it sounds like ungrateful, but people have no idea that idea of having something where you're able to be creative, where you're without purpose, where you are learning, where you feel relevant, I think. Um, I think that is success. And so it's genuinely I can't wait till when Monday morning comes. I just can't wait,
Yeah, I
I
can
just
see
can't
that.
wait.
You see it in your eyes.
Yeah, I can't wait
Interesting.
to learn.
It's sad. You can imagine. I've had conversations and have friends, colleagues, business partners that have gone through that same
Oh
scenario
God,
where
so
they've
many. But
realised a
yeah,
disproportionate amount of money you never need to work again, and they're miserable. And it's you've got to then
absolutely.
understand the purpose and the fulfilment. That's actually what's brought us together. You know, I lost that a key part of my life, the fulfillment element, to then be in a position where I've so enjoyed talking with you today and learning from you. I could go on a lot longer, but
No, no,
in
no, me
context of
too.
time, just thank you because I know you're busy and I know what you're doing is so mission led. So to make time to talk with me today, I've
No,
loved
no,
it.
no.
I hope you
When I
have.
got the invite, there was no way I was saying no.
Oh,
So
Sahar,
thank you.
thank you. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much. That was perfect.